I
guess it's the
do.
prerogative.
I do. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you.
He's not doing it.
Okay, we're live.
Mr. Lawyer, I
Thank
believe
you.
your camera is still on.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We are live. Thank you for joining the Motor Vehicle and Transportation Subcommittee meeting here in the Maryland House of Delegates. It's Friday, March 27th, 2026. Glad that you're with us. A couple of quick notes on norms. We are really grateful to have guests, experts, and advocates join us in the Zoom room. While you're here, we do ask that you keep your phone, your camera, and your microphone off until you are called on with a direct question from a member. Thank you for being here, and we would look forward to calling on you. We've got a quorum, and we're ready to get started. First, let's go through our agenda, and my Chief of Staff, Leifka, will pull that up. Thank you, Leifka. We also have our committee counsel with us, Patrick Tracy. Thank you. All right, today's agenda. We're going to start with House Bill 617. That's the City of Frederick Noise Abatement Monitoring Systems Bill from Delegate Fair. That bill has been amended. We're going to go through that bill. There are two bills that follow. House Bill 4, which is the Historic Motor Vehicles from Delegate April Miller, and House Bill 125, another Historic Motor Vehicles bill from Delegate Steve Johnson. We've actually worked out those bills. So that happened just a little while ago, and we'd already issued the agenda. And since the agenda was issued yesterday, we've worked out those bills. That means we will not be hearing them in subcommittee today. So stay tuned for updates on how we've discovered solutions for those proposals. We will move to House Bill 8. That's the Dangerous Driver Abatement Program establishment from Delegate Stewart. From there to House Bill 669. That's the third-party road improvements from Delegate Pruski. Then House Bill 1353, another worthy bill from Delegate Fair. Maybe we'll move that one up because Delegate Fair is here. But anyway, we'll give some attention to House Bill 1353. This is a bill that proposes to eliminate certain fees for a class of Marylanders, homeless individuals, to give them some fee relief. Then lastly, we'll go to House Bill 1283. This is the video tolls collection bill from Delegate Terrassa. Okay, so I think, Patrick, if it's okay with you, we'll do the Delegate Fair's two bills, House Bill 617, then House Bill 1353, and then we'll move through the rest of the list, if that's okay. And Delegate Fair is in the Zoom room, available for questions. If members have questions, we can call on Delegate Fair. All right, Patrick, can we get started with House Bill 617? Is there a reprint on that one?
No, there's no amendment.
No amendment? Okay, I misspoke. Thank you. So this was a bill that looked at noise abatement. Can you talk us through this one, Pat?
Well, this is just adding the city of Frederick to the current noise abatement monitoring program. It's being run in Montgomery and Prince George's counties.
So we're simply adding the city of Frederick to an existing state program. Are there any questions or any discussion on this local bill? All right.
Bill, Madam Chair.
Is there a second? Okay, I see a second waving hand from Delegate Morgan. The bill's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed? Okay, with that, House Bill 617, I'm sorry. Oh, are you saying aye, Delegate Jacobs?
I'm opposed.
Oh, okay, thank you. Should we do a roll call, Patrick? Does it
Delegate
matter?
Jacobs is the only nay.
Okay, thank you. Your eyesight's quicker than mine. Thank you. So the bill passes non-unanimous, but House Bill 617. Thank you, everyone, for your quick work. Next, let's go to Delegate Fair's other bill on our list. That's House Bill 1353, Homeless Individuals Fee and Examination Exemptions. So I'd just like to touch on this one before you start, Patrick. The intent of this bill, as I understand it from the sponsor, was to give some fee relief to a group of Marylanders who already face a lot of obstacles to moving forward in their lives. And I believe we've worked this out, but I'd like to give the delegate a chance to describe his intent. So Delegate Fair, would you take a moment and tell the subcommittee what you hoped to accomplish with this bill?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to talk about this very important bill. As many of you might know, I run an organization that helps intercept on homeless individuals back here in Frederick County, which I was happy to be able to get off the floor and get back here in time to be able to be on this call to talk about the efforts that we take forward and what we see. What we found when we started communicating with our homelessness organizations across the state was there are a couple of major impediments and struggles that they experience when they're working with homelessness populations. And one of the big ones is an individual might be able to save up enough money to utilize a program like Second Chance's Garage or something like that to buy a car. And they go to purchase the car and it's $500. They've worked out a deal where it's like $500 to get a car to be able to become and be capable of transporting themselves to and from their workplace. And then they get to the MVA, and then they have their registration fees, their tattling fees, and all of the other components that go with that. And then add to that the headache of getting their license and the financial burden that the licensure puts on them as well, in addition to time issues. And you have this like perfect like symphony of challenges that then lead to the individual not being able to be able to get a car when really they had the money to be able to get the car. They were able to identify a nonprofit that was able to get the money to be able to get the car. And so they end up getting stuck in those situations. The same thing can be said for when they go to actually get a job. And what ends up happening is I don't know how many homeless people everybody on the call knows, but the folks that I know, they don't carry the necessary documentation around with them. Usually it's been lost long ago. And so they have to go get that stuff reprinted because you're required when you fill out your I-9 to have two forms of identification. So they either have to go to the MVA and get a new identification card or a driver's license, and then they need to go get their social security card, birth certificate, passport. None of them have a passport, let's be very clear, but like they have to have either one of a set of documents or two documents in order to meet the requirements of an I-9. And that all costs money as well. So ironically, before they can get the job that gets them the money, they can't even get in the door on day one to get the job because they can't afford the documents to be able to be adequately hired by the company to pay them. And so it's this heartbreaking and heart-wrenching like cycle that they're stuck in. And so this bill seeks to alleviate those pains by saying that a very specific class of people, which are called McKinney-Vento, which is a federal defined level of homelessness, McKinney-Vento people would be exempted from those fees and costs.
Thank you. And as the bill was introduced, the fees that you proposed to eliminate were vital records fees from the Maryland Department of Health. You proposed to eliminate or exempt the McKinney-Vento designated individuals from Maryland and Maryland Vehicle Administration fees, such as the driver's license fee, the learner's permit fee, and fees related to license plates as well.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to just share what the workouts that I've tentatively, established, and I'm happy to take questions, but I'd like to mention this before we dive in. The Maryland Department of Health expressed a willingness to exempt this specific category of individuals experiencing homelessness from state vital records fees. That means a birth certificate or any death certificate, anything you might request from the Maryland Department of Health. They're prepared to exempt this category of person from those fees. So we've got that done. we might need to write it into an amendment, Patrick, but that's been agreed. And these provisions around driver's license, ID, and driver's learning permit. I've spoken with Maryland Vehicle Administration and they are here. And I'd like to ask them if they would comment on their willingness to exempt this specific category of person from those fees. So MVA or someone from MDOT who can speak for them.
Hi, this is Lisa
Oh.
Nisley from MBA.
Lisa, thank you.
I
Go ahead.
might defer to my friends at MDOT on this one. Related to the financials, I mean, policy decision wise, it's in your hands, and we of course want to be supportive of this group of people. From the financial perspective, I think we expect it would have a minimal impact, but I would like to defer and just give TSO an opportunity to comment if they have more information than I do.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nisley. That might be then, yes, go ahead, Mr. Michler.
Hi, Matt Michler with TSO. So as Ms. Nisley mentioned, I would imagine, yes, if it's a very narrowly defined group, it's probably a very narrowly defined impact. It would, there is a statutory cost recovery provision for services at MVA. So how that then alters or adjusts other fees to reflect to balance things out, I think we would assess that on an annual basis.
Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to consider that idea. Let's turn to members for questions and discussion. Delegate Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Fair, thank you for the bill. Could you tell me about how many people are in this McKinney-Vento program? Do you have any idea?
So it's not a program, but rather a definition by how homeless you have to be. In Maryland, I don't have the data on exactly how many people would be applicable to McKinney-Vento. They have to reach a certain standard of being unhoused for consistently unhoused in order to be considered homeless under McKinney-Vento. But I don't have a number, so I might just quickly check to see if I can find it on the internet here.
Thank you.
Delegate Morgan, for the record, the fiscal note assumed around 600.
600 people? Okay, I didn't see that.
That was an assumption. It's a guess.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Delegate. Delegate Ziegler.
Madam Chair, it seems to me that there really shouldn't be much of a fiscal impact at all, given that these are fees that this population can't afford to pay. So it seems to me that they would just not get the car or not get the job. And the state is not losing any real money that they would otherwise have gotten, maybe in a couple of cases. But generally speaking, I think the whole point is that they don't have the money.
Right. Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to go over these numbers that you've already given. The Department of Health is going to waive the vital fees.
Vital records fees, yep.
Vital record fees.
Yes, they've agreed to do that, yes.
And I believe that we passed legislation in the past few years about the ID. They don't charge for an ID at MVA now. Is that correct?
I don't think that's not for this particular category of person. Who can help answer the delegate's question though to make absolutely sure? I think there are some exemptions, but I don't believe this, the McKinney-Vento designated person.
No, I'm not talking about the McKinney Vento. I'm just talking about just regular Marylanders. If they needed they could go and get an ID. They didn't have to pay for it. It used to be like $1 or $2, and I think they waived that a year or two ago. Is that true? Patrick.
Patrick or
I'm not
Miss
sure.
Nisley? Miss Nisley, is that a question you could help us with? Anything about, and you're referring to state IDs as opposed to driver's licenses, Delegate Jacobs?
Yes.
State IDs.
Yes,
Sorry,
I'm
could you
talking about
restate that?
ID.
I was having trouble getting off mute there.
Oh, no worries. Delegate, you want to ask your question?
So I believe we passed legislation in the last couple of years that said you could go to MVA and get an ID for free because they used to charge $1 or $2, whatever it was, minimal fee, and then I think they waived it.
I do believe that is in place. Let me just confirm that while we're talking.
Okay. So we'll give Miss Nisley a minute to get your
That's
answer,
fine.
Delegate.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, what's the average registration fee for tags per vehicle? Is it like 190, 150, whatever the heck it is?
Patrick, is that a question you could answer?
Average, no, I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I mean, for
But
a car.
what Delegate Jacob said is within the range, I would say.
You said that 150 is within the range? Okay, I'm sure that's a question Ms. Nisley could answer quickly when we get her back. In the meantime, Delegate Fair, did you have something you want to say?
I just wanted to clarify the legislation that Delegate Jacobs is referencing the estimate veterans. Currently in the state of Maryland, it costs $24 for an individual to get a state ID who's 18 and older, while those under 18 pay $15. And they're valid for 8 years.
And it's worth mentioning that now that Delegate Jacobs has raised IDs, that state IDs are not in the bill. It is driver's licenses that are in the bill.
Right.
But you mentioned IDs earlier in your conversation. That's the reason why I'm asking the question.
Very, very fair point. I was aligning the transportation problem to the job problem. And so I was thinking driver's licenses and said state IDs. My apologies.
Well, I'm pretty sure we passed legislation in the last 2 years that waived the fee because it was very minimal to begin with. And I'm just trying to verify that.
Ms. Nisley, go ahead.
I think what you're thinking is that 65 and over and those with disabilities don't have to pay the driver's license or ID fee.
Okay, so if just the average person walks in, said, I need an ID, what is the
It's
charge?
$40 for a brand new ID. For a duplicate or a correction, it's 30.
Okay. That's helpful. So you got roughly 600 people on this list according to the fiscal note. And the average registration, give or takes 150 to 190. So that is pretty significant money. I don't know where you think it's not significant because it is significant. And I got to tell you, I get more calls per week about registration fees than I get about anything. That people in Maryland are, it's gotten to the point where we have a payment plan for 1 year registration for the average folks in Maryland. So I think it's noble to want to do something like this, but I think if you're going to get a car, you should have the means to pay for a registration by some means. But this would be a hard sell for me to go back to my district and say, we're going to give free registration to 600 people when the rest of them, when I'm getting calls on a regular basis, weekly, people complaining about their registration fees.
Thank
So
you, Delegate.
I
have a question.
I have a problem with that free registration for up to 600 people.
Thank you, Delegate. May I ask you, are we allowed to ask each other questions? Let me put it this way. I hear you, and I hear your concern about vehicle registration costs. And I wonder if the sponsor could just clarify, was your intent to give this particular category of people the ability to have a car so they can work, so that they can support themselves and be independent and contribute to society as employed people. And the only obstacle to their employment and their ability to contribute to society is the cost of the vehicle registration. Was that your intent, sponsor?
Yes, it's important to note. I just want to share, like, one of the problems with the cycles of homelessness and how you end up inside homelessness and then stay in homelessness is because you physically can't get out of it. You can't find the person that will hire you, and then when you do find the person that will hire you, they require identification that requires you to have money to be able to go get the identification to be able to get the job in the first place. You're limited by where you can work because you have to find a place that's walkable to the closest homeless shelter to be able to go from the homeless shelter to that job. So you're very limited in where you can go find employment. And some of the largest employers that could give them a workable job, they own massive factories and places that hire hundreds of people, where we try to encourage people to find employment who are homeless. Those are usually on the outskirts of where a homeless facility is, making it impossible for them to get there without a vehicle. And so they work through countless nonprofits like mine and others to try to find the necessary funds to be able to actually purchase a vehicle to help to lift themselves up and out of that poverty, that poverty situation, which also on the back end helps us as taxpayers who are essentially helping to subsidize their situation while they're stuck in these shelters. So there's a couple benefits, Madam Chair, to this bill.
To the sponsor, thank you for that answer. Would it be reasonable to think of this bill as a workforce enablement policy by removing a barrier to employment?
That's a wonderful way to or lens to kind of view this bill through. Thank you for that perspective.
At the end of the day, we do have to be able to explain the policies that we advance. And I see that workforce enablement is at the core of your intent here. So I can see that. Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Jacobs. Did your question get addressed, Delegate Jacobs, or your concerns anyway got aired?
Well, I aired my concerns, and I hear some pretty compelling, sad stories on a weekly basis from my own district, from people that are working, that are struggling to just pay their electric bill, etc. And then they get a registration, which is, they're pretty high now. And, they're on the edge. So I'm just saying, from a fairness standpoint, it would be a really hard sell for me to grant a free registration fee. If they can find the money to buy the car, I would think they should be able to find the money to get the registration. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Delegate. I see Miss Nisley's hands up. She's going to answer some questions, if that's okay, Delegate Odom and Delegate Morgan. But let's go to Miss Nisley and then to the delegates.
My apologies. That was up from when I answered the last question, but I'm happy to take any others and find out any information I don't know.
Okay, we'll go to the delegates then. Thank you. Delegate Odom and then Delegate Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hearing the conversation and concerns and what the sponsor has indicated, that is sort of a workforce enabling matter. And I'm not too certain about the fees, but would this be a one-time program where, I could see if someone, is able to work or purchase a vehicle, and I don't know what the parameters are. I'm certainly wouldn't think that someone that bought a brand new car would be eligible for this, but is it a one-time grant sort of, or would this be something that would be an ongoing continuing thing? Because I know I did hear that there are some requirements to be eligible to receive it. So
so that's a good question. Thank you, Delegate. So let's make sure we get your question answered. Who's the best person to answer that?
I'm happy to jump in.
Go ahead, sponsor.
On the sheer text of the bill itself, Delegate, to your good question, So it applies as long as the individual is defined as McKinney-Vento. So the goal here is to get the person out of homelessness. And so the goal would be your registration, your tags, for example, would be 2 years. The goal would be very logically that within that 2-year period, you manage to get stability and employment, and that you're no longer McKinney-Vento, and so the bill would no longer apply to you. I can't promise that that's what's going to happen with every single case, but that certainly is the bill's intent, and certainly has worked out across the country in other states to help lift people out. So it would not be an ongoing thing. They would receive it once. They would hopefully be able to utilize that good effort to support themselves and pull themselves out of homelessness.
Does that answer your question, Delegate Odom?
Yes, it does.
And I think you had another question you were asking about, is the person buying a brand new car? I think the sponsor explained that the cars that folks under this category are have access to are cars that cost $500. They're used cars. They're functional to get the person to their job. Is that so, sponsor?
Yeah, a good example here in Frederick County, and it's true across most jurisdictions across our state. There are organizations like Second Chances Garage that actually take donated cars. It's a great opportunity to lift those organizations up. Donated cars that individuals have, like if I have my personal car and I donate it, either because it's broken or I'm just buying a new car and I want to donate and take the tax write-off, they'll then repair the car and then sell it at well below market book value in order to help an individual who is experiencing homelessness, or they actually need to have a referral from a nonprofit agency, from an organization that works on homelessness in order to be able to apply, and then they're able to get a car. And I'll just mention there's a waiting list, pretty substantial waiting list at these organizations who are always looking for more cars to be able to give back to the community.
And Delegate Fair, did you also say that nonprofit organizations purchase these old beater cars and make them available to clients who are McKinney-Vento? It's not that the individual categorized under McKinney-Vento is going out and buying a car, but that car may be provided by a nonprofit to them.
Right.
Do you understand that?
In some extreme cases, it might be free, but it's very likely that the person will be expected to pay something to be able to purchase the car. And as I use $500 as a common number, that's usually where everybody settles in at. The organization takes in the donation of the car from an individual, but they have to expend a lot of money to get the car operational and functional again and be able to actually drive. And so that's where they have to charge something to the person buying the car, and usually where they make what little amount of money they do on the sale of the car.
Thank you. Does that help, Delegate Odom? Okay,
Absolutely. My questions are answered.
thank you. We'll go to Delegate Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Delegate Fair, I mean, the question is, it's like one of these the chicken and the egg fight that's going to come out of this is 600 people, and you say this could be good for 2 years, not 1 year, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just using registration fees. Some of the registration fees as an example. Your tags are good for 2 years, for example. So the goal being you only buy your tags once every 2 years. So you buy them once, those are waived. The person's able to get their tags on their car, and the car is able to then functionally operate. And then by 2 years, we're hoping they're stable, that all of the other resources and wraparound supports have been able to do what they needed to do, and the individual has gone into the workplace, has become a participant in society, and is paying into our tax system and everything else.
Well, I get that. The concern that I have down by me is obviously, I know more than, 7 out of 10 people can't afford to register their car for a 2-year basis. It's just too much money, and they can get to one and done. So now we're giving them a 2-year waiver with a 2-year set of plates versus a 1-year set of plates. And like I said, that's where my hang up is defending that in a rural area where people are screaming bloody murder over their fees that we increased last year, and being able to justify, particularly in an election year.
Forgive me.
That's my 2 cents.
I
Okay,
apologize.
thank you, Delegate Morgan. Delegate Fair, did you want to respond?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I might have my MVA processes wrong here, and if I do, I apologize, but I just assumed, I was using tags as like the clearest line and example, assisting them by waiving it once, and tags are good for 2 years. If that's not the case, I apologize. I might have to be misspoken.
Ms. Nisley, can you verify the duration of vehicle registration?
Yeah, so the customer actually gets to choose. So for years and years, the standard was 2 years. And in recent years, we have allowed people to choose to go ahead and do a 3-year registration or a 1 year, or they can do the payment plan, which would be 6 months for, and you would pay twice for that 1-year registration.
Oh, interesting. So that is a little different than I understood as well.
So it's
So
a
you're saying
more
it was a
recent
1
change.
year, 1 year or 3 year or 6 month, those are the options?
1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and if you do the 1 year, you have a option to do 2 payments. I think at some point the legislature asked us to do the 1 year, and we said, okay, well, if we're doing one, do we want to allow 3 as well? So I think we did those at the same time, and then I believe we were asked to do some sort of opportunity to make 2 payments on your registration. So we did that for the 1 year.
Thank you, Ms. Nisley. And again, you said that vehicle registration fee is how much? I know there's a range from where to
There
where.
is a range. I can pull that up and even drop it in the chat. But let me pull that up for
Why
you.
don't you go ahead and pull that up? Take the time you need to pull that up. And then I would appreciate if you would tell us verbally, because the public can't see the chat, and in future years, folks won't be able to see the chat. Thank you. While you do that, I'll go back to Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad she clarified that, because what I was going to tell you was the year, we did go to 2 years a few years ago, but because of the high cost of registrations that were passed in the last couple of years, they've gone to a 1, 2, 3 year. It's not a 2 year renewal. And just for everybody's information, if you take the lower number, $150, which that would have to be like a compact car, at $150 a year, that would be $90,000 for 600 vehicles. So if you go 2 years, it's 180,000 just on registration alone. So just bear that in mind.
Thank you to our fiscal note writing delegate. I thank you for doing math in your head so quickly. So okay, so thank you. Ms. Nisley, you want to come back?
Yeah, so in terms of passenger cars, there's 3 Class A vehicles. They are based on weight. So the lowest fee is $120.50. Then if you're over 3,500 pounds, but under 3,700, it's $125.50. And then over 3,700 pounds is $191. So those are all reflecting 1 year. So then you're choosing which level of registration, so multiply that by 2 or 3.
Thank you. And this is for passenger cars. It's not for farm trucks or 18-wheeler trucks or the kind of industrial, vehicles that farmers use or haulers use, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so this doesn't affect really folks who are using vehicles in agriculture or industry. Passenger cars, all right. So 1 year pass, yeah, go ahead, please.
I also wanted to clarify there, it is different for trucks. So with the 3,500 pounds or less, it's $133.75. For a 3,500 to 5,000 pounds, it's $138. And then for over 7,000 pounds, it goes up to $178.
And when you say truck, is this a private personal vehicle or an industrial agricultural vehicle?
Those are private vehicles.
Pickup trucks.
Right, but they're not used for agriculture or industry. I'm trying to make the
Yes, those
distinction
are
between vehicles that people choose to drive, that they use for everyday transportation, not that working farmers, working haulers, working industrial functions. There's a difference, correct?
correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's also helpful. We need to have a little chart with us when we talk about vehicle registration, because there's a lot to know. Thank you, Ms. Nisley, again. And I see Delegate Odom. Oh, sorry, Delegate Odom, can you give me a second? I want to make sure Delegate Morgan's questions got answered. How did I lose him? Delegate, you're good? Okay, thank you. Delegate Odom, please go ahead.
There's another question just came to mind. I mean, whereas insurance is required in the state of Maryland for motor vehicle as well. So does the bill at all take into account those expenses? I see where it may be difficult for one. I've never been homeless, so I can't speak to it from any experience, but maybe a little difficult to register a vehicle and maintain the proper insurance. And I don't know how that is involved in this bill at all, or if it's considered.
I don't believe the bill contemplates anything to do with vehicle insurance.
Correct.
So I think that's not the subject of the bill. And that's a fair question. And I think it's worth noting, Delegate Odom, you raise a good point, which is that the cost of car ownership is itself so onerous that a bill to contemplate waiving, driver's license or registration fees is a worthy matter for our attention. It's not just, the driver's license or learner's permit or vehicle registration expense that's a problem. It is the cost of ownership, which includes car insurance, includes maintenance, includes buying fuel. And so it may be possible to consider a world in which you don't have to own a car in order to get to your job. But that also is not the subject of this bill. We got other bills for that. Thank you, Delegate. So I hope that answered your question. Car insurance is not the subject of the bill. All right. Any more discussion? I appreciate the attention and the thoughtfulness here. And the honesty, it can be challenging to explain our work. Yes, Delegate Ziegler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, just really quickly, I do want to point out that homeless people are very expensive for the state. They cost money in other ways. So that's, if we're talking just about the money, that is something to think about. But I could certainly make a case for separating car registration from any other kind of record fee.
So could you be more clear?
You're absolutely right, Chair Lewis. Owning a car is really expensive, and owning an old beat up car, it can be even more expensive in terms of, keeping it running. But yeah, I could certainly see, I don't see that it makes sense to ask a homeless person to pay for any kind of ID card if, that would prevent them from getting a job. And, if they had that kind of money, they probably wouldn't be homeless.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just waiting to see if anyone else had any other questions, but I was going to move the bill.
Thank you. So what we need to do, though, Delegate Allen, I think is agree on some amendments, because we wanted to amend the bill to, to adopt the Maryland Department of Health exemption on vital records fees. That needs to be an amendment. And we
Wait a second. What do you mean the exemption?
Exempt individuals meeting this criteria from paying MDH vital records fees.
That is in the bill.
Is it in the bill?
Yeah.
Okay, well then it wasn't so great that I talked to them about it. Okay, they already agreed. Then the other amendment would have to do with there's a provision in the bill that asks to exempt that addresses what was it again? Sponsor, help me out. It was the requirements for driver's license. Sorry, guys. I'm so mixed up now.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Please.
The sponsors amendments were really pretty technical. They just specifically included homeless children and youth, and then struck a requirement for the expedited driver's license process for unaccompanied homeless youth.
Right. I think that
Um,
was the challenge, right, Patrick? Because they're, go ahead though, please.
Well, I was gonna, the sponsor's on if, it looks fairly technical to me. If it has more meaning than I'm seeing, he might know.
It does, actually,
Delegate
Pat did
Fair.
a great job of explaining exactly what the amendments do. It clarifies McKinney-Vento, it just gets the clear language around what we're talking about when we're talking about homeless kids and homeless adults. And then remove that component about expedited driver's license process.
Right. Okay. I think that was the sort of a technical sticking point for MVA that we couldn't do that part, the expedited driver's licenses. It has to do with in car insurance companies, the requirements, the standards that have to be met. So you have to drive for 18 months or something like that. Okay. Is that right? Am I right? Okay. I see Delegate Guyton, Vice Chair Guyton.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. First, I have a question that I hope we all, because I'm not remembering it. I hope someone else, I'm sure council will remember it, and you probably will remember it. So I have two questions. One is a question regarding another bill that we saw, I believe, from Delegate Woods earlier this year that I thought we passed out that dealt with vital records for a similar population. Can you all respond to that? Like, how is this different, and how do those mesh together? Or did we not get it all the way
So
through?
what we
I
did, we
apologize.
worked, yeah, you're right. And thank you for looping us back. We've tried to do a lot this year to remove barriers to employment for folks with a lot of obstacles in front of them. Delegate Jamila Woods' bill proposed to create an expedited process for youth in a certain age range who didn't have a parental the right adult in their life to sign off for them if they were under 18, I think it was. And what we did, we worked out that bill with MVA. That bill didn't need to pass. We didn't need legislation. We just needed a conversation with MVA. And I would appreciate it if either Patrick or Ms. Nisley could take us back and
Sure.
describe exactly what we did with Delegate Woods' bill.
Yeah, and I'm fine. I don't need that
No, you don't need
information.
an explanation? Okay.
Given
We took care
what
of
you
that.
just said, I appreciate that. If they want to, certainly. If you want them to, certainly. But I didn't remember where it ended up. So you just explained that and what it did. So I thank you very much for that. My second question is, and I think it's just been a very long week. Right now, in the bill that we were looking at, we've just spent a lot of time talking about registration fees. Is that currently in the bill, or is that something we were talking about possibly amending onto the bill?
Registration fees are in the bill.
So they are currently in the bill, and they remain in the bill with the amendments that the Delegate Fair has brought us
Correct.
as well. Okay, thank you so
And-
much for that.
And driver's license fees.
Okay, and I am absolutely in support of getting everyone the vital records that they need, and maybe the driver's license fees as well. Similar to some other things you've heard, the registration fees are going to be a lot more difficult to defend in my district, similar to Delegate Ziegler's district. So I would like maybe a little bit more conversation about that if that's the direction that we're going to go.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. We'll go to, and your question remains on the table, so we'll, in the meantime, let's take Delegate Naraki, and then I'll go to Delegate Fair to answer any questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize. I got held up at a meeting. I was sorry for being late to the party. So if this question is already answered, I apologize for asking it a second time. I am looking, though, kind of towards the end of the bill about an exemption from inspection requirements. Could council or maybe the bill sponsor tell us what that means specifically?
Veep. It's a Veep exemption.
Okay, so we're Patrick, we're not talking about any sort of safety inspections,
No,
correct?
no,
Okay,
just
okay.
Veep.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question, Delegate. You good? Okay.
Yes, Madam
All
Chair,
right.
thank you.
Delegate Fair, can you close the loop on the things that have been
Sure.
raised?
Just to kind of reinforce the registration conversation, I just want to stress that one, As the fiscal note would analyze, and as you can see in the fiscal note, it actually outlines how much money we're talking about at the MVA is about $55,000 a year by their estimation, and that's because a vast majority of homeless people cannot afford a car. They absolutely can't. And they are meeting with organizations like mine and other nonprofits around the state, desperately trying to find a nonprofit who will help them be able to purchase a car. I can tell you that when it comes to granting organizations like the nonprofits that help them buy a car, it is a lot harder for us to be able to write the totality cost of a car into a grant application to be able to get money to be able to do that. And so a lot of us are able to very easily make the case, help us help people buy cars. We can't, when we go to ask for grant dollars to help homeless people purchase cars, we can't say, oh, but here's the totality of the car purchase, and we actually need you to give us all this extra money in order to do that as well, such as registration fees, such as license fees, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the state, in my view, and I know that I'm biased here, but that's partially because of the work that I do with homeless populations every day. This is the state partnering with nonprofits who are helping homeless people buy cars and get into employment, and then assisting in its way that it can to remove as many of those structural barriers as possible, again, for two very laudable causes. One, if the person is pulled out of homelessness, they are no longer a significant financial burden to our taxpayers in our local jurisdictions. Two, that they can then pay into the tax system and actually be a participant in that society and actually help to uplift others throughout the community. And three, to be able to widen the landscape of which they can then be able to apply for jobs. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of shelters are located in densely urban areas. A lot of your jobs that are with major employers that hire hundreds of people are in your suburbs or outside of your major urban populations, making it impossible for that person to go get that well-paying minimum wage job where they are kind of trapped inside of whatever the marketplace looks like inside of that urban jurisdiction that they live in. They're not able to find a job that can actually adequately pay them to get them out of that situation. So all of that's to say, this, in my view, is the state's participating role in getting these people up on their feet and kind of giving them a hand up, not a handout.
Thank you, Delegate. Thank you, Delegate. So I'm hearing from members very thoughtfully concerns about the appearance of fairness around vehicle registration fees. And that is a legitimate concern that I get it. I hear members' concerns about registration fee relief for one category of Marylander. I'm also hearing that the fiscal note is likely to be modest. The estimate in the fiscal note itself was about $55,000. Delegate Jacobs / fiscal writer Jacobs, off the cuff estimate, maybe 100,000 or so. We do have $100,000 sort of suggested cap on bills this year due to our very tight budget picture, our fiscal picture overall. But while I hear members' concerns, I look at the fiscal note or the potential fiscal impact, and I think about how this bill would work, and that is to get some of our most marginalized people back to work. It strikes me as not only workforce enabling, but economy growing. When people are working, they're contributing to our economy. So for a $55,000 or $100,000 cost to the state, with the potential to generate a lot more in balance, that investment, I see as a kind of investment in workforce as well. So with that, I think we have amendments on the table to consider Thank you guys for the robust discussion. I do want to move on. So amendments on the table. Vice Chair Guyton, did you have a question, pressing question? If not, let's talk about the amendments. Patrick, can you enumerate them one more time?
Well, yeah,
So
like I
we
said, the
can-
amendments are pretty technical. They clarify that specifically the homeless includes homeless children and youth. And they strike the requirement for homeless youth to be unaccompanied to qualify for the expedited driver's license process.
Okay, which Delegate Woods workout kind of took care of anyway. I think, okay. So the amendments are before us. Delegate Allen,
Move the
Yeah.
amendments, Madam Chair.
thank you. So can we have a discussion on these amendments? Clarifying the McKinney-Vento definition to include homeless and unaccompanied youth. Removing, what was the second one? Removing, sorry, what was the second one, Patrick? I'm sorry.
That it strikes the requirement that the homeless youth has to be unaccompanied to qualify for expedited driver's licensing process.
So the unaccompanied homeless youth can get expedited driver's licenses?
Namely 3 months as a permitted learner's permit instead of 9 months.
Oh, yeah, and I think that was an issue. Ms. Nisley, was that an issue?
So, excuse me, we did not weigh in on this bill, but on that note, I think you and I and TSO had discussed us looking at it over the summer because there are some safety concerns about the shortened period of driving. But we did have a conversation with the sponsor staff, understanding that there are adults that are working with these nonprofits to do this. So we just wanted to take a closer look before we commit it to absolutely doing that. And that's something we were planning to do while looking at other provisional license issues.
Okay, so the expedited driver's license for unaccompanied homeless youth. MVA wants to look at that provision. So that portion of the amendments is something MVA wants to look at. The other, okay, so is that where we are, Patrick? Please help me, because I'm getting a little lost here, and I do need your help. So please make sure that I'm being accurate.
Well, yeah, we're just this amendment just says you don't have to be unaccompanying homeless youth. You just be homeless youth. It strikes unaccompanying to get the break from 9 months as a learner's permittee to 3 months.
Okay, so taken together, the amendments have been moved.
I'll second.
The amendments have been seconded. All those in favor of the amendments to this bill say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed to the amendments? Okay. The amendments are adopted. Do I have a motion on the bill as amended?
Move the bill, Madam Chair.
Second.
One moment. Vice Chair Guyton is trying to get back in the
Okay.
room. I'm
Oh, we
sorry
lost
to
her.
interrupt. We lost her, yes.
Thank you. Levka, can you
Yep, she should be
rescue
back.
our
She
vice
should be
chair?
back in now.
Okay. Thank you. Vice Chair Guyton, we lost you. We took a vote on the amendments. Did you miss that? The amendments have been adopted.
Okay, then that's what's happening. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome
I
back.
was going to suggest we hold for another amendment, but that passed me by, so I will.
But you got lost in cyberspace.
Yeah, I was lost in cyberspace. I will abstain from voting on the bill because I was not present to hear what just happened.
Oh, sorry.
Well, and the vice chair, you could prepare an amendment for full committee too.
Okay, I may do that.
And this bill will have to go to appropriations because on top of the amount of the general registration fees, there's the license fees, the VEET fees, and the MEMSOF fees, and all. And it approaches 100,000. And then it's also assigned to the health committee as a secondary committee.
All right, thank you. And Madam Chair, I'll be sure and discuss that with you before I put anything in.
Thank you so much.
Thank
So on
you.
the amendments that have been adopted and the bill as amended, Did I say all those in favor say aye? I think I did. We were in discussion. Any discussion?
We have not voted on the bill as amended.
Didn't we? Okay, so this is
I
what
don't
happens when I
believe so.
lose track when a lot of things happen. Let me go back, get it right. Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Ziegler.
I move the
On
bill as
we-
amended.
We've adopted the amendments. Now we're
Second.
on the bills amendment. Okay. The bill is amended, has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of the bill as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any discussion? Any opposed? Raise your hand so I
No.
can see it.
No.
Delegate Morgan is a no. Delegate Jacobs is a no. Delegate Naraki is a no. I think the ayes have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think the ayes have it on the bill as amended. The bill is passed as amended. And we understand we may see another amendment in full committee, but we've completed our deliberations on this bill. It took longer than I thought. Thank you, Delegate Fair, for being with us. We're going to move to, I am going to suggest we move to House Bill 1283. This is the video tolls bill. This is going to require some of our attention. So members, if you need to get a sip of water, take a deep breath, get some oxygen to your brain. I need your full mental capacities for this one. House Bill 1283, video tolls collection. Patrick, could you walk us through this one? Now, if you guys recall, members, you recall, this was a piece of legislation that's trying to tackle it's trying to help Marylanders who find themselves with a very heavy, a very big tolling penalty bill, a fine that they have to pay because they missed paying a toll and they're overburdened by the penalties. This is a bill that attempts to help Marylanders who, operating in good faith, who, for a variety of reasons, perhaps beyond their control, find themselves drowning in a debt due to video tolls. You recall the bill hearing. There was a young man who testified in person who talked about having a $30,000 bill, as I recall, a video toll bill. And that $30,000 is not the tolls itself, it's the penalties. And the young man described that. I think he moved, he didn't get the mail, he didn't get the notice, the time passed and the bills piled up. He went to renew his vehicle registration. I think that was the experience he had, and discovered, oh my gosh, he has got a $30,000 bill due that he couldn't pay. Then he couldn't register his car, couldn't get to work, lost his job. It was just a series of disastrous outcomes due to exorbitant video toll penalty. And this bill is aiming to get relief for those folks acting in good faith whose lives have been turned upside down. I also want to underscore for the subcommittee why I think this bill is important for us to really wrestle with. And it's because, in my view, the state of Maryland doesn't want to be in a position of hurting folks who are trying to get to work. Just like we discussed at length, the bill to help homeless individuals of a certain criteria get to work by helping them get their vehicle, because we know access to a car is predictive of employment. In this case, the video tolling bill recognizes that these heavy penalties that some folks are facing affect their ability to operate their vehicle and get to work. So we really want to give this consideration. All right. With that, Patrick.
Yeah, this bill authorizes MDTA to waive tolls that are before the central collection unit in the Department of Budget and Management, and then requires them to notify CCU of that, and they're supposed to then reduce their amount of the 17% fee that they attach on to cover their costs based on the amount that was waived. And current law, MDTA can only waive if they have yet to send it to CCU or if they've recalled it back from CCU.
Okay, so everybody, does everyone remember, Patrick, that process? MDTA, it can collects tolls. If a person doesn't pay a toll, MDTA can issue a fine. And MDTA has a set of fines and a timeline for collecting the toll and the fines. But at a certain point, MDTA, when they decide, when it's clear they feel they can't collect that toll, they send it to collections, which is the central collection unit of DBM. And at that point, when it goes to collections, there is no further workout that a person can benefit from. It has to be collected. Is that correct, Patrick?
Well, they can get it, MDTA can recall it under current law. If the delinquent account exceeds 300, the video tolls were assessed within a 30-day period, or mitigating factors exist as determined by MDTA. That is now an or. That used to be an and.
So they can't.
It's much
Okay.
more permissive, but they can recall it from CCU.
So they can recall it, and the bill proposes to let them. Okay, so the bill in existing law allows MDTA to recall delinquent accounts within 30 days, you said?
No, within 30, the video tolls in question would have had to have been assessed within a 30-day period.
Okay, all right. Let's have some discussion on this bill. It is a little complicated. It's important to make sure everyone understands current law and what the bill is trying to do. So I think I'll go to, because we're so lucky to have experts from the agencies in question. We've got MDTA here as well as CCU here. So I'll go to Mr. Gardner, if you would, and make sure that members understand your MDTA process. Please go ahead.
Sure, and thank you, Chair and members of the subcommittee, for the opportunity to talk through this. So, as Patrick, you and Patrick mentioned, we do have the process where the additional notices are sent, and there are about 5 different notifications currently that we send out to customers as part of the process. So they will even have the opportunity to contest a toll in court. If they choose to, and at a certain point, as you've already described, those will be sent to CCU. So as the state debt collection agency, it really is a partnership with CCU. But as you indicated, we have situations where the mitigating circumstances, that we typically will waive the civil penalties of $25 per transaction for are, we don't see that as something that was involved in the process. The missed address, the crossing between MVA database and ours in terms of change of address, names being different, a video not picking up the right license plate, things like that. So those mitigating circumstances, we do try to pull back from CCU, and what the bill contemplates is something much more significant, where we haven't really been able to identify that. But there might be something, in the customer's experience that you do that. So, the concern for us that I think we've identified is that we would only want to be in a situation of waiving the civil penalties. Tolls to us are part of our trust agreement with our bondholders, and it doesn't allow us to provide free passage. It also, under current law, we don't kind of adjudicate the hardship cases that people might present in their situations if they haven't kept up with their tolls, if they haven't gone onto our website to search their license plate and see that when they know they've driven through our facilities, that they're getting their notices and things like that. So because of that partnership with CCU and what they do with the customers, we have our piece with the citations, and then they do have costs associated with their collection process. And it is another 17% for them to reimburse themselves for their administrative costs. So those complicating or compounding costs associated with these unpaid tolls. And if Madam Chair, if you want me to talk a little bit about why it feels significant to the committees now and kind of the customers that you're hearing from, I can do that, but I wanted to pause before I went there.
Yes, please go ahead. I think let's move while we have energy.
Okay. So as you may recall, from going to all electronic tolling during the pandemic in March of 2020, it did create this situation where we had to go to that overnight. People that were used to paying cash at our toll booths didn't have that option any longer. So they went directly to something where they were relying on the video toll. We were encouraging transponder use as much as possible, doing as much as we could to drive people to the Easy Pass system so that they would get both reduced rates, opportunity to participate in commuter discount plans, et cetera. We did that, but we also, at that time, in the previous administration, we suspended sending notices out because hitting people during the pandemic was at that time felt to be burdensome, but that didn't make the debt go away. So when we did start processing those notices to send them out to people they had accumulated, that doesn't mean that they were automatically late. It just means that there were a lot of those tolls to deal with. So if they didn't deal with those tolls, then through the processes, the civil penalties added up. And in the middle of that time, there were also system challenges that we had both at MDTA and DBM dealing with the volumes of things. So we've gotten to a point where maybe on an annual basis, the systems are working well now and doing that, but we do have this influx that's kind of this pandemic hangover of sorts related to the volumes that is probably bringing it to the attention of more and more elected officials and to my mailbox as well. But I do want to make sure DBM has a chance to talk through their processes and potential challenges before I go any further.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. It's helpful to understand the MDTA process, and I would like for the benefit of members to call on Ms. Phillips from DBM, if you're the appropriate person, to speak to us about the DBM CCU process.
Thank you. I also have with me Jesse Lawyer from
That's
our
right.
CCU department. And I think Jesse's the expert who can kind of walk you all through the CCU process.
Thank you. Mr. Lawyer, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. CCU treats Easy Pass debts essentially the way we treat every other debt. When a debt is assigned to CCU, we notice the individual, we give them the opportunity to dispute the debt, and we offer payment plans. For many of the Easy Pass individuals that are placed with us, we do set them up on payment plans so that they may receive their registration services. Now, there is similar to other types of debt, there's a high fallout rate with those payment plans. They can make a couple payments. They'll, stop making payments, and then we would pick up again with those individuals when their registration expires in approximately 2 years. As far as financial hardship is concerned, again, Easy Pass debts are treated the same way every other debt is treated when it's placed with CCU. If someone expresses a need for special consideration due to financial hardship, we'll send them out forms for income versus expense information. If they complete that information and return that back to us, we'll review that. Now, we don't typically waive debt based upon financial hardship. Okay, we look at the financial hardship as a temporary situation that someone is struggling with. So if they need registration services, based upon the information we receive with the income and the hardship documentation, we could offer them reduced payments to a reduced payment plan so they can get their services. As long as they maintain their payments, there's typically not an issue until they can afford to pay more.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Members, any questions for either MDTA, the Maryland Transportation Authority, or CCU, the Central Credit Unit? Delegate Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm trying to do some Delegate Jacobs math. I look at the fees that you charge of 17, 20%, et cetera. Is it 20% and 17% or just 20 or 17?
Mr.
It is set at 7. I'm sorry, was that for me?
Yeah, I was just acknowledging you because we have to acknowledge people before they speak.
Thank you. Our fee is set at 17%, and that is consistent across all of our debts.
It almost feels like a usury rate to get
So
to
what-
17%. I mean, so you say a credit card debt is, where we limit credit card debt, and the people, I don't simply have a soft place in my heart for people who run the toll booths and then think they're going to get away with it when debt starts picking up. But I'm wondering at the same time, you're charging 17%, and that cap that isn't linear. That's going to be cumulative over time. And it doesn't just stay at 17, it's 17% per month, correct? Yes or
Mr.
no?
Lawyer, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if I could respond yet.
You can.
Okay. Our 17% is a one-time assessment that gets assessed at the time the debt is placed. So keep in mind, for your typical easy pass debt, so say a toll is $3. A citation fee gets assessed to that additional $25. That brings the rate up to, that brings the debt value itself to $28. CCU's fee on that account would be approximately $5. That's our fee that's assessed that covers our full collection of the debt. And keep in mind, we only get that fee if we actually recover the value of the debt. So
you're
while
saying,
our fees are assessed, we only take it out of actual collections that we return back to the organizations that place their debts.
so the $3 fee becomes $28 with the penalty.
The
$3 total.
balance of the debt, would be $28 and then $5 CCU fee. So that would take the value of the debt up to approximately $35 or $33.
So thanks. So you started with a $3 hole and you're $35 at the end of the day.
That's how we received the debt. We received the debt at approximately $28.
Plus $5.
Plus our fee to collect the debt. CCU is self-funded. We run our operations from our collected fee.
Thank you.
Thank you for those questions, Delegate Morgan. Thank you, Mr. Lawyer. I just want to go back to this example. The Easy Pass toll, and the tolls cannot be changed. They have to be changed through a special procedure. So we, the legislature, cannot change the tolls. Speak that clear right now. So the Easy Pass toll in this example was $3. They didn't pay the toll. Maryland Transportation Authority, MVTA, imposes a $25 fee for not paying, correct? So the total debt is $28. Is that correct? Can someone speak and say if that's correct?
Correct.
Mr. Lawyer, that's correct. Okay. Then, so that is the total debt that MDTA, if they couldn't collect it, they would send to CCU, say, please help us collect this $28. CCU is self-funded. They have to impose a fee to run their operations, and their fee on a $28 debt is $5. So
No, it's
impact-
17%.
Sorry, 17%. Is that $5 about the
In your
equivalent?
example, it comes out to $5.
Right. Thank you. That's 17% fee.
And the
on the total
17%
debt.
fee is in statute. They don't make it up.
They don't make it up. They can't change it. So in this example, the fee would be 17% of that debt would be $5. So the total impact on the Marylander, the person, is $33. So that's a big distance from just the toll. My question for you, Mr. Lawyer, what percentage of total debt that CCU holds does CCU collect?
Well,
How many dollars do you really get back?
it varies upon inventory.
Let's
receive
talk about
that.
MDTA. We're talking about
For
MDTA.
For MDTA to give it increased substantially over the past year because we received a large backlog of placements. I don't have the exact figure, but I can give you it's probably in the realm of this year we'll probably collect and again, this is an estimate just based upon our current track. We should collect about $50 million for them. Maybe a little less than that, maybe 40 million.
And for our purposes, for the purpose of this committee, to give us a sense of the scale, because that sounds like a lot, but is it 5% of the total MDTA debt? Is it 50% of the total MDTA debt?
It would probably be closer to like 5 to 10% of the MDTA debt.
So, okay, this is important, members. Collections are hard. It's hard to collect. And so what we're hearing is in broad terms, estimated terms, the CCU is only able to collect a fraction, 5 or 10% of the total debt that they're trying to get on behalf of this agency. So yeah, that's not a lot. Okay. Any more questions? Or can you help us understand this, Mr. Gardner? Does that sound right? We can't hear you, sir. Mr. Gardner.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just wanted to echo the challenges. So, for us that, when we do that poll and do those through those 5 notices, there's cost to us. That's why we have that $25 fee per transaction, because we have, if they're not paid after those notices, all cost, and we're actually adding a 6th notice in the near future to try to increase collections to give people one more chance. But thank you, Jesse, for putting your numbers there. If we can, provide any clarity on that, I wanted to provide another example of the customer assistance program that we did do for about 9.5 months in 2022, hoping that would take care of the amount of debt outstanding to MVTA before it went to CCU. As I said, we ran that program for 9 months. We had about a 25% participation rate in that program. So even when we've tried in the past administratively, because we were coming out of the pandemic and it was a very unique situation then, that was a kind of a low collection rate for us. We were hoping for more, and even more importantly, we saw after that people were kind of less likely to pay the video tolls than before the pandemic. So we saw that downward trend once they kind of said, oh, maybe there's another period of customer assistance that will be coming up in the future. Just a couple points I wanted to provide for context.
Thank you. That's good context. Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you. So, Mr. Lawyer, I got a question for Mr. Lawyer, if you can
Please
have
go
it.
ahead.
You talked earlier about you do have an option for hardship cases, and you consider short-term situation, and you offer a hardship payment plan. Could you give me an example? Say they owe $10,000. I'm just picking a number out of the air. And under that scenario, what is your remedy?
Thank you for the
question.
Thank you for the question. Typically in a situation like that, and again, this would be based upon receiving back their income and expense information. So they would provide us with copies of their paycheck stubs, outstanding bills, and all of that. In a situation like you just mentioned, what would probably happen is we would, like, a typical down payment for a balance of that size would be about $2,500. So we would request like a $2,500 down payment, and then we would try to set up payments at a rate that would reduce that balance over a period of 2 years. So the next time they go to get their registration, they wouldn't have an issue, right? Because the typical registration period's 2 years. So in that situation, we would probably reduce or waive the down payment and try to get a monthly payment that they could afford. Say for discussion, we set them at $200 per month. Okay, that would recover that debt at approximately $2,500 a year. It would extend the repayment period, but as long as they made their repayment on time, that would be fine. They could get their registration and they could continue with their vehicle services.
So they're not held in every case to 2 years.
No. And in fact, but the problem that happens is not that we set a reduced payment. The problem is they typically don't maintain payments. So we can set them at a reduced payment amount, but if the individual only makes 2 or 3 payments, then breaches the agreement, then we go an entire 2 years without payments until it's time for their registration services again.
Right.
When it's time for their services, then we hear from them again, and that's typically when you hear from them. Because now they haven't paid for 2 years again. These debts are now 4 years old, and now we have to demand higher amounts to try to get these debts resolved.
Thank you very much for those answers.
Thank you.
That's your question, Delegate Jacobs. You good? So again, it's really difficult. really complex situation. And I think let's remember, we're talking about Marylanders, our friends, neighbors, families, constituents, and that sometimes we know that there are some folks who might be scofflaws and are, just not participating in the orderly rules. And then there are folks who are truly struggling, who may have lost their job. I mean, that's why they can't make that $250 monthly payment. They were a federal worker and their federal job was eliminated. Or they had a medical emergency or some other situation that, out of their control, and that affects their ability to repay. So let's remember, we're thinking about those folks, not about scofflaws. And this is complex stuff. And it does affect our state agencies' credit ratings and their ability to deliver for our people as well. So I think this bill is complex enough, but I'm sensing a willingness from the subcommittee to keep putting a little more effort into figuring out how we can help Marylanders who really need help, just like we try to help folks with homelessness, experiencing homelessness, get on their feet, get a car, get to work. We want to make sure Marylanders who are doing their best aren't penalized and driven into debtor's prison, right? So let's give this bill some more work. Would the subcommittee be willing to just hold this and keep working on it? Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate the full court press from MDTA and DBM. Thank all of you for being with us. You will hear from us again as we try to work this out. Patrick, is that okay? We'll come back and see what we can do.
Of course.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. I'd like to see, if I can get you guys out of here by 3 o'clock, would you stick with me and try to move a couple bills here? See what we can do with a couple bills here. We have House Bill 669. That is the third-party road improvements, satisfactory completion. This was a bill brought by Delegate Pruski, and the intent behind it, as I recall, was to really make sure that when there are road construction projects, repairs, construction projects that impact our people's ability to get around, that those road projects really get done and they're done satisfactorily. Patrick, there are a couple of amendments on this bill. Can you talk us through? Was there a reprint?
Yes.
Thank you. Leafka's going to help us with the reprint. Okay, and Leafka's going to scroll so we can see what's going on.
Go to the back because this bill was rewritten.
Okay, keep going, Leafka.
These are amendments requested by the State Highway Administration, really a little bit clearer as to what's going on, I think, than the original bill. But it authorizes SHA to require a non-governmental permit applicant to submit in their, as SHA sees fit, a schedule for the work to be performed under the permit. And then the person who submits a schedule for the work is required to complete all the work in accordance with the schedule or an extension approved by SHA. And if they fail to complete the work, they could have the permit revoked or be liable for damages sustained by the state as a result of the failure, including any costs to complete the work, which I believe SHA is on the call, but I believe they sometimes have to eat these costs.
Keep going, Patrick, and we'll come to SHA when you're done.
I'm done. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I see Delegate Jacobs has a question. Let's get his question and then we'll make sure we get to hear from SHA. Delegate Jacobs.
Okay, so Patrick, is there a bond required for these companies?
I mean, usually there is.
Well, I'm just curious.
I'm not sure if I'm not sure if that's part of this bill or not. Give me a quick second here. Well, it says it's liable with its sureties, so I don't know if that's requiring a bond, but perhaps assuming that there usually would be.
So I guess a surety would indicate a surety bond, but it doesn't say that. That's why I'm asking the question.
I don't think the bill is requiring that. Other parts of the law may do so, or SHA may, as its own policy, require.
But I was thinking if they didn't complete the job is if we just talked about, that's where the bond would come in.
You would think.
Yeah. So shouldn't it be in there?
Like I said, it might be elsewhere. Maybe they can explain how they do their bonding.
All right, I'll wait and hear from them. Thank you.
Yeah, let's bring SHA, Miss Mueller.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, go ahead, please.
So with the bonding, we do have a surety bonds. I can get the specifics on exactly the protocol around those, but I do know that we worked with the industry for these amendments with the sponsor as well. So I just wanted to point out that this is the agreement that we all came to.
Does that help, Delegate Jacobs?
No?
No.
No. I was going to say, are you required? Do you require your contractors to have surety bonds? Is it SHA policy? Is it state law?
That's the point I would like to clarify, because I know we do have those. I'm not sure if that's either in statute or it's just our policy. Matt Michler's on the call as well, and Matt was with SHA prior to me. So if he has that information, glad to hear from him. If not, I could just take a few moments and to ask that question to my team.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller. Go ahead and do that. And while you're doing so, I'll just ask Mr. Michler if he might have any insight for us in the meantime.
Yes. I think it's best that Ms. Mueller double check with her team. I know there are regular bonding requirements on certain projects, but what those are and when they apply, I just do not recall or have that on hand right now.
Okay, I can't believe you don't remember everything. Well, that's why this is a team sport. We need everybody's minds and expertise. So we'll give Ms. Mueller a second to try to get an answer for Delegate Jacobs, if that's okay. Members, any other questions or discussion on this bill? It brings to mind a bill that tackled a similar issue that was brought by a member of this subcommittee who's from Baltimore County, who was very concerned about notice on highway repair and construction projects. And we managed to do something meaningful, and that is to make sure that the governor and the legislative members representing a district where there's construction get notice. So that was really important. And we did that. So Ms. Mueller, if you have an answer for us yet, I just bought you a few seconds. I did my best.
Sorry, I was just checking with her. So yes, we definitely have it in regulation. Give me 1 second. I just got a text message as well. It is in statute as well. It says the administration shall require a non-government applicant for a permit issued under the subsection to submit a performance bond, letter of credit, or other survey acceptable to the administration. So I hope that helps. It does have clarity about the amount of the improvement is estimated to exceed 100,000. The project is financed in a whole part and private funds, and the entire improvement is located outside the applicant's property. So I hope that answers your question, Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome.
A good specific question and a good specific answer. Any more discussion on the amendments to House Bill 669? So this is a good bill. Do I have a motion on the amendments?
Move the amendments, Madam Chair.
Do I have a second? All right, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed? Okay, the amendments are adopted. Do I have a motion on the House Bill 669 as amended?
Move the bill as amended.
Okay, second. All right. The House Bill 669 as amended has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed?
Aye.
I have an opposed. Do I have unanimous? Are we unanimous? Oh my goodness. Patrick, am I imagining this? Okay, House Bill 669 as amended passes unanimous. Thank you, guys. Can you give me 3 more minutes of your attention? directed to House Bill number 8. This is the Dangerous Driver Abatement Program, a new concept for an approach to stop dangerous drivers. This year, in this session, we've worked on a number of bills to make our roads safer for people driving, walking, and biking. There's been an overflowing of creativity on this thorny issue. And Delegate Stewart proposed this bill that will work in the aftermath of identifying a dangerous driver. There's someone, some of our bills will prevent dangerous driving. This just deals with folks who've demonstrated an unwillingness to change their dangerous driving behavior. It proposes to require individuals who are dangerous drivers on certain criteria to require them to complete a driver safety course designed just for them. And the condition of renewal of their license is to complete this course. And I think that's the essential meat of the bill. Patrick, did I miss anything?
No, that's the heart of it.
The heart of it, yeah, the intent. And knowing the subcommittee, I know that you guys care very much about road safety for everyone. Any thoughts or questions on this bill? It is complex, so I'd like to give us a little time to discuss it here, and we can keep working on it. Yes, Delegate Jacobs.
You said 3 minutes.
And I talked for 4.
And
Are you calling me out?
You talked for 4, so
No.
you're already in the wrong place.
Oh my goodness.
Let me make sure I understand this. It's for 3 or more times, although the threshold is higher, 5 or more times for speed cameras, work zone cameras. So if you get caught by a speed camera, how many times in a year? And then it's a mandatory class you have to take, or there's a suspension involved. Am I getting this correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so what's the number of times?
All right, there's different types of speed cameras listed in the bill. For most of them, it's 3 times.
Right.
And for the speed violations, it's 5 between the 2 types of speed violations, the work zone cameras and the local program cameras.
So it's 5 total in a year.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that seems like a lot, but okay. Any other questions or thoughts on Delegate Naraki?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm thumbing through the bill quickly here. Is there any consideration for the amount of speed over? Sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can see that. I see the number of times, but council, is it just if you are going 11 miles per hour over, for instance, around a speed camera, or are we thinking about more dangerous driving? Like, I don't know, you're going 30 miles per hour over. I'm just curious, like if there's any.
Obviously, we've had bills that have addressed that. This one does not. You would have to be 12 miles or more over to get a citation, and you have to get a citation to qualify for this. But other than that, no. Between 12 and 30, same issue or same result under this bill.
Okay. I have some concerns with that. I mean, because I do think that there is a difference there between someone that's going 12 miles per hour over the speed limit, than someone that's going 30 miles per hour over the speed limit, as an example. This feels a little punitive to me for someone that could potentially just be going just a little bit more than 10 miles per hour over the speed limit.
Thank you, Delegate. And I think that's a reasonable concern. I believe the bill tries to distinguish between a person who might be going 10 miles an hour over. It's very different than a person who has multiple moving violations, extreme speeds. So it's really trying to pull apart those populations. This bill is really trying to identify, distinguish that persistent, repetitive, extremely dangerous type of driving at high speed over and over and over and over again, and not someone who maybe, is trying to get their pregnant spouse to, labor and delivery, right? That's my understanding of the bill's intent. But we can keep looking at that. Any other questions? Just wanted to give this bill some airing. It does deserve a little more attention than just 3 minutes. But I appreciate you guys. Any other questions about it?
Madam
Okay.
Chair, may I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
We're not creating any new categories of, I see multiple different types of automated enforcement in here. There's no new creation. I see school zones, I see school buses, I see railroad crossings. I'm just trying to understand, to make sure that we're not creating some new speed camera.
The bill
type.
is referencing all existing programs.
Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Good question. Thank you. Okay. I get a sense that the subcommittee's appetite for any heavy intellectual work at this point is probably minimal. And I just want to thank you guys for hanging in there with me this afternoon. I hope that putting in a little bit of extra time today will save us next week. So I think we've completed the agenda we had before us. Thank you for your hard work. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, may I just say something really quick before the subcommittee goes home?
Yes, Patrick,
The
please.
motor vehicle bills next week will be heard on Tuesday, not Thursday, just for the record.
Thank you very much. And we've got a lot of Senate bills that are coming over. So we'll handle them as they come. Thank you very much, Patrick. Any other business news? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
You guys are troopers. We're adjourned.